Hey guys, hey y'all, how's it going? My name is Kirby Ash, and me and Audrey Hepburn up here are going to introduce ourselves and explain why the heck we're making this video. First off, let me start with today here in Tennessee. It is finally a little bit cooler, enough that I need to wear this jacket, but it's still probably hot compared to most places. But it is rainy, it is gloomy, it is gross out. I have a list that is beyond doable. I am in day 2 makeup. I have not showered, and I thought, you know what? Today's the day to start these videos. I don't know why. I don't know why I did that, y'all, but you know what? I think it's probably because you mamas out there, you stepmamas out there, if you wait for the moment where you have it all together, it's never going to get done. It's never going to get done, right? So like I said, my name is Kirby Ash, and this is just going to be a brief introduction into some video series I'm going to start doing. It's going to be about step parenting. So let me jump in with a brief history on who I am and how I even have come to find a place to talk about step parenting, right? So I do not have any biological children at this point. I met my husband almost 3 years ago, I guess a little over 3 years ago, and right away he had told me about his son, and I love kids. I always have loved kids. That was no issue for me. It's kind of a funny story. My older sister at one point was like, I feel like you're going to marry someone who has kids. So, lo and behold, long, crazy testimony, insane, were we absolutely nuts story short, my husband and I got married very quickly, and I became a stepmom to a beautiful son. He is now 8 years old, just turned 8, and there has been a lot of stuff happen in the last, specifically, year. But that's going to be for another video where I share more details about it, how he and I's relationship started, the events that took place during custody battles, and what it kind of looks like for me as the stepmom to a child who's also going through trauma counseling and trauma work. So stay tuned for that story, but that is kind of what has given me this platform now to even speak into being a stepmom. So that kind of takes me into why I decided to start making this video. There's a few reasons. One, when you start trying to find support for stepmamas, it's really hard. For me, the hardest part, and I'm sure there are awesome support groups, Facebook groups, videos, I'm sure there's so many amazing ones out there. The only ones I could typically find had to do a lot with either blended families, which is amazing. We need those. That's not exactly what we are. Or it was really just a space to vent and complain. And y'all, that was not something that was going to help me, especially during a time when things were as difficult and hard as eventually I will share with you guys. So for me personally, I felt like there wasn't a lot of resources for this specific area of step parenting, when you kind of have to step in and really take on the role as a mama full-fledged. It's not a situation where biological mom is involved, other than some pop-ups here and there, which we'll talk about at another time. But really, this is specifically my heart is to help, one, with women who step into a stepmothering role that requires more than, you're just the stepmama when you have them a couple days a week or every other weekend. I'm talking about a full-time stepmom position. So what does that look like? What are the ups and downs in that? And also from a believer standpoint of, kind of how to do this thing with a kingdom mindset. Because let me tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy sometimes, especially when you walk through some bumpy roads. So that's kind of why I wanted to share it, is I feel like I've gotten a lot of insight, and y'all, I'm still walking through it. And I think that if we want to help people, that it's nice it's nice to have the stories after the fact to go, hey, look, we got through it, you can too. But for me personally, I'm the type that needs someone who's a couple steps ahead to go, hey, watch that big boulder back there. Hey, you're about to come to a turn in the road. Or hey, I'm just a couple steps ahead of you. Reach out for my hand. Let's connect. So that's my heart for this video, is that as we're walking through it, I'm going to continue to share kind of what this journey looks like for myself and for my family. So who are these videos really for? Now, I kind of just specified that I stepped into a full-time mama role. Nowhere do I even really feel like the stepmom at this point. So specifically, it's definitely for those types that maybe there's some chaotic stuff happening with the biological parents or the biological mom in particular, and you're in a position where you're having to step in and navigate how to be a mother to this child or redefine what a mom should be to this child. That is specifically my role, and so this is really, I think, going to speak mainly to those stepmamas, okay? But I do think that if you're a step parent in general, it's nice to connect. It's nice to hear from other step parents. It is not the same thing as just having a child and raising them. Again, I don't have any biological children of my own yet, so I don't have that to compare to, but I can tell you that sometimes you need another step parent to understand the different dynamics that happen. So for any stepmamas out there, I think that this is definitely going to be a great thing, especially if you're a believer and you're looking for, like I said, that kind of kingdom mindset of how to do this thing, this relationship, you know, with you and your husband, with you and your stepkids. It can get tricky. So it's definitely for step parents of any roles. And then on top of that, I do think that for new moms or moms in general, I hope that I can share some things that will be helpful or some things that will make you feel not alone, because this is definitely a new experience. I was very quickly thrown into not only being a stepmom, but like I said, filling the role of what a mom is, having to redefine what that means to my beautiful son. And he's 8 years old now. And so all of a sudden I have an awesome 8-year-old. He was younger when I first came into his life, but current time, I am full-time mama to an 8-year-old boy, and it's my first time mom experience. So for moms in general, I think that this will be a safe place to relate and probably laugh at some of the experience I'm going to share. And again, trying to come in, I think I do have a different perspective, because sometimes being a step parent, if we choose to see it, there is a beautiful other perspective we can see where we get the privilege of kind of getting to know our kids. Instead of, I guess, it's beautiful that you get to grow with your children and you get to watch them grow. But I've had this amazing outside experience where I get to look into my stepson and get to know who he is and get to know his heart at an older age. And so I do think that I have learned some tips and tricks about parenting along the way that will either make you laugh and call me crazy, or maybe they'll be helpful. So in general, I do think it's for really any kind of mom, specifically, like I said, the stepmamas who are really filling that mom role, those stepmamas that in my book really are so crucial, and we'll talk about that in another video. I could just go on and on. But I wanted to give an insight into what this video series is going to be. Now, I'm going to tell you this is not going to be a venting session. There will be videos, I am absolutely positive of it, where I need to express and be vulnerable about what's going on. And I promise you that I always will be vulnerable. I can't do something unless I get to be real. And so I was telling Jesus before I made this, all right, if we're going to do this, God, then it may not be pretty all the time. So it won't be pretty all the time. It will be vulnerable, but it is not going to be a bashing session. I may share some details so that people can relate and so you can understand where maybe the emotion and the vulnerability is coming from, but I'm going to be very careful to not be throwing anybody under the bridge, or I don't want to stir up any negative. You know what I mean? I may stir up some things that we can relate to that are hard and that are difficult, because this life is that way. And then added in being a stepmom with a beautiful child who's been through things that no one should be through, It gets heavy. It gets hard. I'm not going to shy away from those moments because that's where I feel like people really need to know they're not alone. But at the same breath, I'm going to be very careful to not focus in so much on the negative or focus in so much on the people that maybe cause the negative, because I do not want it to become a space where I then am complaining and venting. And the exact reason I wanted to start the video is so that I could have a place that wasn't like that. So y'all can hold me to that as well. If you ever feel like it's getting on that complaining session, send me an email, shoot me a comment in the video. I'll share links of how you guys can get in touch with me. But I really just want this to be a safe place to be real, to express what's going on, to share my journey, and hopefully help some other women along the way, because it's hard waters to navigate. It truly is. It truly is. Okay, so the other thing is that I'm not a counselor. I am not a counselor. I've worked with kids my whole life, and I have worked with some inner healing ministries and things like that, but I am not a counselor. So everything I'm going to be sharing is strictly my perspective. My perspective, what I've walked through, what wisdom I've gained or not gained. So please don't take anything I say as solid truth. I hope that it can help. I hope that you can relate, and maybe some of it you can apply to your own life. But please know, I am not a counselor, especially when we get into some of the trauma stuff. My stepson has a trauma counselor, someone who specifically specializes in that he goes and sees, because I am not qualified for that. So, have to put that in there. I'm going to try to make videos once a week. You mamas out there know that may happen, it may not, but I really am going to try. And, yeah, that's pretty much what I got. It's probably not going to be pretty, y'all. We're going to go over things like, you know, more details of my story and how I met my husband and how I met my stepson. We're going to go over kind of how to gain that trust in your relationship with your stepson, because it's not just a process. Y'all know that if you're a step parent, it doesn't happen overnight. We're going to talk about things of, you know, the daily reminder that you're the stepmom and not the biological mom, because that can be really hard and heavy on your heart. We're going to talk about some things about the struggles of it, the sides of it that people don't understand, and even how that can affect your marriage, because you want your husband to understand the difference and he just doesn't, right? He just doesn't. We're going to talk about things like that, and specifically geared around relationships and how we can build them up, and hopefully centered around trust building, because I think that is the number one thing we need as step parents, is how to be patient and how to gain and build and work on that trust, because it's a brand new relationship with your stepkids, right? So we're going to talk about things like that, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hilarious. Like I said, my son is 8 years old, and so you guys know I've got some crazy funny stories with that. On that note, I'm going to leave you with the most recent funny story that I know any mama can relate to. And one day he's going to kill me for posting this video, but right now he doesn't have to know. Sorry. The other day, I'm sitting there cooking breakfast, and this is a child who went from feeling like he was not smart at all and had missed so much school that he just did not feel intelligent. He didn't feel smart. And so now we have him in such an amazing place where his confidence is really going through the roof. Sometimes I'm like, what have we done? No, but it's beautiful. So I'm sitting there cooking breakfast, and I already know, because the tone of his voice, that he thinks he has this golden nugget of truth. And he says, you know what? Did you know that your stomach does not digest your food? And I said, oh, really, buddy? He goes, yeah, it's your small testicles. It's your small testicles that digest your food. And he says it so proud and so confidently. You mamas can relate. You're like, oh no, do I bust out laughing? How do I correct him gently so I don't completely embarrass him? Well, in that moment, my husband had walked around the corner and goes, what are you talking about? And then I couldn't help it. I bust out laughing. Thankfully, my stepson started laughing as well. And we said, I think you mean small intestines. So we had to go through that whole thing. But I hope that made you guys laugh, and that you can think of a story with your kids, especially boys. Y'all, boys are crazy. Crazy. But there you go. I wanted to leave you with that your stomach is not what digests your food. It's your small testicles. So I think he actually said tiny testicles and he meant small intestines. So that's all I got for you guys. At that point, you might be thinking, I'm never clicking on this girl's videos again. That's okay. I think making these are going to be just as much for me as I hope they are for you. So until next time, the next video I will be sharing a little bit more of our story so you guys can get to know me. If you think this has any value, go ahead and share it with someone who might be a stepmom or a new mom. And if not, skip over it. That's totally fine. But until next time, I love you guys. You're doing an amazing job. Keep up the work. You can do it. You have so much more value and importance in these kids' lives than you could ever, ever, ever imagine. So keep it up. All right? Talk to you guys later. Bye, y'all.